Welcome to Kevin Richards VIPs. You want to be a rock star? Well, my guest today is going to tell you all about the trials and tribulations and life on the road. Let's get to know Steve Graham. So I'm sitting in Bourbon in beautiful downtown Barrie with my super cool rock star guest, Steve Graham. Steve, I've been wanting to talk to you for a while, and it's been sort of a roller coaster finding you. You've been kind of all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for taking the time to sit down with me today.
Thanks for asking me to come out.
So, Steve, why are we sitting in Bourbon?
Well, it's just this is the first bar I drank in, first bar I sang in, first bar I came to with all my friends, first bar I got fights in, and first,
It's a good first bar.
Yeah.
Nice. So, Steve, tell me a bit about you. We're going to come back and talk a bit more about the life on the road and the rock star life you've been through, but tell me a bit about you. Where did you grow up?
Here in Barrie, all my life.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to every school in Barrie. I graduated from Central.
Yeah. Where'd you go to public school?
All of them.
Why?
At one point, because we moved all over town.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite school?
I didn't like school.
Yeah. But what was it like for you growing up? Because to choose the life that you chose later on in life, was there something, when you were younger that sort of influenced you on that?
The Beatles and the Stones, I guess, and then Zeppelin came along and stuff like that, but it was the Beatles that got me going at the age of 8, She Loves You, yeah,
Yeah.
And then later on, when you get older and mature and that, you start listening to the White Album, right?
Yeah. And then that kind of sends you places, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Right. It's a good inspiring album, though, too.
Sgt. Pepper's, whatever,
Yeah. Oh, some of the
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Yeah. So then what was it, at what point you decided that you wanted to be a musician, or you realized you could sing? Because you don't sing like, an operatic.
I was shy. I was very shy, and I didn't want anybody to know what I was. I was just shy. I didn't want anybody to know I could do that, really. Mm-hmm. And it's a private thing. But it was when I got older, and the guys like Terry Baker knew he knew what I was all about. Mm-hmm. So he dragged me to a rehearsal, and basically the rest is history.
Yeah. When you first let out a belt, right, about the way you sing, because you don't sing, like I said, you don't sing like a jazz sound. You've got a real rock scream kind of sound. What was it, or what moment did you realize that was something you could do?
It was gradual, because you got to tear your throat apart. Mm-hmm. Everything's torn down like a phoenix until it's burnt out and there's nothing but ashes, and then you come back up again. I know that's how it was for me anyway.
Yeah. Now, were you just singing in a shower, singing along to something? Was there something that inspired you?
It's being out in the bars and playing the shows, and I don't know, I channeled Bon. Listening to Bon Scott growing up was like having an older brother teach you about puberty, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right?
So, well, hopefully not Bon Scott.
Well,
so, okay, let me ask you this then. So who's your favorite frontman? Because there's a few frontmen for AC/DC. We're going to say Bon Scott's your favorite?
Well, it's not to say that he's my favorite, but it's just something that's attached to you. And he was the first guy that got my attention was Let There Be Rock.
Yeah.
That album.
Okay.
I was 14 and 15 years old when I first heard that, right? Mm-hmm. It actually blew up my stereo speakers. We had to get new stereo speakers. You could hear them start cracking off of that song, the first song, Go Down, right? All of a sudden their speakers start cracking. We look at each other and we go, what's going on here?
Yeah, they were known for blowing the big Marshall stacks and the speakers at the concerts. Speakers. Yeah. Those are expensive speakers.
Yeah.
So then where's that moment though where you suddenly go from being Steve to belting out something and maybe wanting to get a band?
It is a bit of a mental place that you do have to go to before you hit the stage. I don't know, I can't describe it. You do tend to change. My personality would change before I hit the stage at the last second. Just before you hit the stage, I'm not Steve Graham anymore. I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's where that whole rock star thing kind of kicks in too, because you're no longer Steve Graham watching, you're Steve Graham being watched.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So what's that moment like when you first grab a microphone then for you? What's it like when you get onto a stage?
After a while, I did it, we did 280 shows a year at one point when we first started.
280 shows?
Yeah, 270, 250, whatever, right? Like
wow.
From 96 till 2000. Mm-hmm. We grinded, man. Rich Rufo He got us so many shows. It was crazy. We'd be sitting looking at each other, and we got double booked sometimes, and we're like, how can we be in two places at the same time? You know, it was crazy.
So one thing that is pretty cool about you too is a lot of the people who started off in the real rock scene when Barrie started to have a real appearance in the 70s and 80s and 90s. You were starting up with a couple other bands. Who were some of the people you started performing with first? Like you were with Scorcher.
Yeah, I started with Scorcher. Was with them for 3 years, and a good friend of ours, Danny McMaster, he ended up with Jason Bonham, John Bonham's son, for 4 years doing that. So I was proud of that. I mean, I thought, yeah, right on. You know, the guy made it out of town.
Yeah.
He fronted the band I started.
I think he was from Angus, wasn't he? He was from Angus.
Yeah, he was from Angus.
Yeah.
You know? So that was exciting for us because, and then he came back from Europe after recording the first album, and I met Bob Ezrin and Phil Carson from Atlantic Records and stuff like that. You know, Phil coming over and going, "Hey man, I'm Phil Carson." He's shaking my hand. I didn't even know who he was, man. I had no significance who this guy even was. Just a kind of long pea jacket, glasses, so unassuming.
Yeah.
But he just walked over and introduced himself to me. And then later on, years later, I found out who it was. I was like, "This is the guy that signed Zeppelin and shook Bon Scott's hand and was friends with Bon and the band and everybody, right?" So yeah, that was kind of freaky.
So then what was it that made you decide to go past Scorcher, and you've worked with some really brilliant people, like you like to compose as well too?
Oh yeah, I like writing and stuff, you know, always have.
And you've had some inspiration?
Always got a riff going in your head, always, just constantly. I got to turn it down.
Yeah.
In my mind when I'm doing your everyday life thing.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, I don't need a stereo, man. And so I just turn the knob up in my head. It can be as loud as I want. It doesn't disturb anybody but me.
Yeah. So who are some of your favorite people who inspired you to write? What were some of your first inspirations on that?
Well, Bob really did inspire me to write.
You're talking about Bob Irving, yeah?
Yeah, Bob did. I don't know. I never really thought about writing. It's weird. It's like I was on the riverbank. I slipped in the mud and fell in the river, and it just dragged me along with it. That's basically almost how it happened. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do this. I got sucked into it.
Yeah.
It drew me in.
So you chose to follow the path of being an AC/DC cover band.
Not really. Like I said, it's like standing on the muddy banks of a river and slipping into the river and just and not fighting it and letting it take you with you. It was it was just Bank knowing I could do AC/DC and dragging me out to do it. I had really no interest in wanting to do it.
But so then where did Hell's Bells come from?
Well, we started out doing a Bon Scott tribute, but we realized that wasn't going to float because, you know, everybody was onto the Brian thing by then. So, and it was only the nostalgic people that really knew what was going on with Bon.
Yeah.
And that'd be the older people, and the younger kids that were coming up were Back in Black material.
Yeah.
You know, so they didn't even know that Bon was the original singer. They thought they were, you know, Bon and Brian were the same
Dave
guy.
Evans or whatever did it for like a year, and then Bon took over, and yeah.
Yeah, Bon walked in, basically, he took over. He seen the opportunity to slip in there. Right?
Absolutely. So do you have a favorite AC/DC song?
It's hard.
Or is it a collection?
Very hard. I love them all. I don't care what they did. Even the crappiest song they did, I still like it anyway, you know what I mean?
What do you think of Thunderstruck?
I loved it.
It's taken off like crazy.
Yeah, I loved it because it was something new at the time, something fresh, right? You know, and yeah. So I loved doing the song. It would drive the bar crazy. I just loved it.
So what's it like when you suddenly get this band and you're no longer performing in Barrie? Where were the first places you were traveling to and hitting the road?
Well, sometimes when we headed out west, we'd hit Thunder Bay first. We'd drive all the way up there first.
Yeah.
Or we'd hit Sudbury first, or whatever. And then a lot of roadhouse bars, like sort of like this atmosphere.
Yeah.
You know? I loved playing
I
the
get that whole
roadhouses.
Patrick Swayze image in my head of Roadhouse.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was. And, you know, we played arenas and big venues and all that stuff, and I really wasn't into that. I'd sooner be in a pub with a bunch of crazy partiers. And the guys in the band, they seemed to like the koosh shows, I thought. You know, the kooshy shows where everything's safe and quiet. Well, I couldn't handle that stuff. I'd walk into a bar, I'd smell urine and vomit, and I'd say, this is the place, man. This is going to be nuts here tonight.
It's funny,
and it
isn't
always
it?
was.
Yeah. So then you start to go on tour. now you're starting to, have some success as a rock star sort of idea, right? You're singing in a band and you're on tour and you're living that life. There's got to be some real craziness. Like, I'm sure you have seen some of the craziest things in parking lots and in bars and in pubs. Yeah. What are some of the things you've seen?
Well, there's been knives pulled in the bar. There was guns pulled. One night some dude was going to shoot out our telebeams because it was blinding his table, and they took him out in cuffs.
Wow.
Unfortunately, we had 2 murders over the years.
Really?
One in Blenheim County was running a corn stalk, and it was a very popular thing. I don't know, I guess the guy didn't have enough liability, but that ended. And then another incident in Sudbury at a old Grand Theatre. It wasn't good for the band. It was a very negative thing that happened around us, and it put us out of work as far as doing outdoor shows in Canada.
Oh.
We got in Ontario.
Yeah.
We got banned in Ontario. We couldn't play any more outdoor shows, so we had to do outdoor shows in the summer, either out east or out west.
Wow.
Because we were banned in Ontario, so we weren't allowed to play here anymore. And they blamed it on the music.
I was living in the States a long time ago, and I saw an ad for Hell's Bells performing in Missouri.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to go and see you at that show. You don't remember seeing me, but I remember coming up to watch you.
I do now. It's coming back.
Oh, it's coming back now,
well,
sure.
Don't forget, they don't measure their shots there. They just pour it in a cup about half and top it off with a little bit of ice and juice and hand it to you. And you take a drink and you just go,
That's a great excuse for not remembering me, because they don't measure their shots.
They don't
States.
measure their shot. Think about that. They measure every ounce here, man, and keep it in track, right?
But that show, I remember people were mesmerized and captivated by you. It was a smaller pub. It was almost like a university kind of pub. They were just rocking and rolling, loving you.
Well, we got a lot of that down there.
But you had some crazy stuff happen at that show too. You were always around crazy things.
Oh yeah, I tended to get caught up with naughty girls and stuff like that, trying to get them into motel rooms and stuff like that. Sometimes they wouldn't let them in, she might be a prostitute that I wouldn't be aware of.
Yeah.
That you'd be working the district and I'd be, like stuff like that happened. And that, not all the time, but it did happen.
Sure.
I mean, it's just part of it, I guess. I don't know what to say about it, really. You don't like to admitting to some things,
Talking to you, it's always this reality of, who cares? This is you, right? And I love that about you. So when you did go on tour, though, sometimes it was a little more than the alcohol that got into the system, and sometimes it was just other things to keep you going. What was that like for you? Because you've been through some hell and back with that stuff as well.
Your body is really amazing what the human body can do. It'll adjust to things. It'll adjust to a pace. It's like dancing on the razor's edge. I mean, like you could be dead, and you know what I mean? Like you could be dead 1 minute and alive the next, It's like that, right?
Now you've also been through some health conditions and health concerns, and we're going to get to that in a second, but before I ask you that, do you still sing? Like, what's it like when you go into a place and they're doing karaoke? Like, do you not just snap and want to sing?
It's a light switch.
Yeah.
And it's just like this, everything just pitch white light, things are humming and crackling and popping.
And you're in your zone.
Yeah, just like hit the switch and off you go.
What's one of your favorite songs to sing?
See me ride out on the sunset in your color TV screen, stuff like that, or Hills Bells, what I mean? Like, I loved all of it. One song I got a kick out of was Up to My Neck in You.
Yeah.
And everybody would think it was a love song, but I always knew that song was about the crossroads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crossroads of life.
Yeah, for sure.
Robert Johnson and all that stuff, I was always fascinated by that.
So if you were to be sitting here belting out a song right now, what would be one of your favorite things to sing?
I love doing Dirty Deeds. I like doing Live Wire. I love doing Back in Black. That was always one that put you on your toes, man. You had to have your game on for doing that song. Shoot the Thrill.
Yeah. Can you give me a 10 seconds of Live Wire?
If I can remember it, all of a sudden I'm going blank here for a second.
Or you could do Hell's Bells.
If you're looking for trouble, I'm the man to see. If you're looking for satisfaction, satisfaction guaranteed. I'm as cool as a buddy on ice, hotter than a rolling dice. Send you to heaven, take you to hell. I ain't fooling, can't you tell? 'Cause I'm a live wire. Right?
That just makes my throat hurt because you hit this place inside your throat and your chest and belt it out. That's just so raw and
You know,
just a
there
cool
was
sound.
when we were on the road, sometimes we'd think there was 6 people with us, and all 5 of us would go through it. Is everybody in the van? We're waiting for some. No, we're not waiting for anybody, Rich. Let's go.
You're funny. When did you realize you suddenly had some health concerns and things that were, possibly affecting your throat or everything?
Well, no, I never really affected my throat. I mean, I sang when I was sick. You'd be surprised what the body can do. I didn't realize there was really health problems till I was out of Hell's Bells for 5 or 6 years after that. And I was also started a band up with a buddy of mine, Scotty Falkerson, who we used to sub out Angus' job to when Terry couldn't do it. Who Made Who, AC/DC tribute. Yeah. They're still going. I spent 7 years in that band on and off, and Scotty could tell you some stories. I tended to take things to another level on that band. But we had a lot of fun doing that, and we toured around doing some stuff. We did some out west tours. It was kind of neat because of the road that we drew with Hell's Bells. And then when I got with Who Made Who, I was back on that old trail again that we had dug years before that. And it was just like, wow, Led Zeppelin too,
So,
doing it again.
But at one point, though, you started to realize you had cancer.
Yeah.
And some other things were going on. Tell me a bit about that.
Well, it's definitely a cancer. Changes everything, right? It flips your life upside down, mentally and physically. But I didn't have to have chemo and all. It wasn't serious. John Irish just said to me, there's nothing, you're good. We'll fix you up in no time and send you on your way, right? And, just normal health problems, I think, that most people go through it when they get into their 40s and 50s.
But your cancer wasn't just a simple, not that cancer is ever really simple, but there is some cancer that's usually pretty, more along the basic lines.
I could have died from it if I hadn't had something done about it.
Yeah,
it
so what was it?
Where
Where was your cancer?
It was in my face. It was skin cancer on my lip, probably due to smoking and stuff, because of the catalyst of tobacco on your skin.
Yeah.
And I had a tumor in my face, and I had to have that removed.
And how big was it?
About the size of a dime.
Yeah, which is pretty big.
And when they cut all the nerves, it paralyzed the left side of my body. I had problems for a while. It was hard to walk. I couldn't stand in the shower. I had to relearn how to talk and sing because it affected all the nerves in my throat. So I had to reinvent myself, so to speak.
Yeah. So when you're out on the road and you're having fun, you're kind of thinking that the money's not going to run out or that you're going to be okay. Is there a point in your life where you realize that maybe things are getting kind of rough and that maybe you're not sure what you're going to do? Because that happens.
Well, it's like everything runs its gambit, right? We rode that horse until it dropped in the middle of the desert. You know what I mean? I'm serious. Like we rode the poor horse until it died. All of us did. I mean, we had 40. I probably worked with 40 to 45 different people over the years in 10 years of different sub guys.
Yeah.
Which was a lot of fun to bring in different guys and seeing them come and go and stuff like that. I didn't miss a show for 8 years. Not one show.
Wow.
I was always there. Or always tried to make it there. I mean, I was there physically. Sometimes I wasn't there mentally. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I guess I put the boys through a lot. I would turn into Jim Morrison sometimes, and which
just kind of disappear onto the stage.
Yeah. Stuff like that.
So when you, like I said, you're living financially on what you're making from all these shows and stuff. But what's it like when you're no longer on the road? What are you doing?
Well, the thing was, I always had a day job. I've always had a job since I left high school. I always worked construction and stuff like that. So when I wasn't playing, I was working. I would come off the road and be on the job site the next day.
That's got to be hard.
Yeah, come home at 11 or 12 at night, and then I'd have to meet my boss at 7 or 8 the next morning after driving 27 hours from Winnipeg.
Yeah.
You know, so I always had a job, always worked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always had to. And I didn't really depend a lot on the money. I mean, we didn't make a lot of money. We were the lowest, probably one of the lowest paid bands on the booking house list.
Yeah.
Out of all the bands that they had, we were the cheapest. I don't know. We had a notorious reputation because I don't know. I can't explain it. I mean, everybody was always kind of leery of dealing with us. I don't know if it's because of me or what, but.
Well, it's the world of the rock star, right? There's certain levels and certain, safe zones, right?
I just couldn't handle the deceitfulness of the deceitful side of the business when you're dealing with these people like managers and promoters and stuff like that. That they would get you caught up in the gambit of making money for everybody else but you. Mm-hmm. But then again, you are in a cover band. You're not writing your own music. So what can you expect? I mean, you're not going to be a rock star going out and playing other people's music.
Yeah, right? There's a lot of greed.
But what I liked about doing AC/DC's music is that just by doing their music and going out on the road, they teach you learn everything about life. And if you don't catch on, you're dead.
Yeah.
That's it.
Survival.
You're coming back in a pine box.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's just like that song by Bon Jovi, Wanted Dead or Alive. It's just like that, man. It's true.
Do you miss being on tour?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Is it something you can do?
Well, there's a lot of us musicians, if we're not busy and not touring, we're climbing the walls. And we drive our loved ones crazy, right?
Yeah.
So, but me, I've been concentrating on other things in my life. So, dealing with family issues, dealing with health issues. I've done everything. I've had the opportunity to do all that. So I don't dwell on it too much, Yeah. I mean, I got to do it where some musicians in town never got to do it.
And you've experienced some losses in the last few years too.
Yeah, family members, my mother and my father.
Sorry.
My stepfather and that. But, but that's life, right? Mm-hmm. I'm next. Well, and my kids have to do it, so whatever.
Well, when you say it like that, though, it's sort of, but hopefully not for a long time, Steve, because, the city of Barrie needs you to do some more shows, and we really like you, and there's a lot of people who love you.
I'm like Ozzy, I should have died
right?
1,000 times.
Well, part of that, though, is there's a real depression that can happen in music, though, too, right? We've lost Chris Cornell, and we've lost some really amazing, beautiful, wonderful musicians.
And it's not hard.
And we don't know their story. So do you find that that's something that is becoming more of a trend? Do you think what's it related to?
It just comes to, I think it's just part of it's the beast. It just comes with it, right? You jump on the back of that bull's back and you ride it out. That's all, and if you survive, you survive. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just that the world of excess with musicians and art, anybody that's in arts and theater, is their mind's in a different place than most average people.
Yeah.
And their perceptions are different than most average people.
For sure.
And I mean, I started drinking and doing drugs and alcohol and all that crazy stuff when I was very young. I was smoking when I was 9.
Wow.
So, and I was, drinking and smoking pot by the time I was 13. So by the time I was out of high school and everything and in rock and roll bands, well, now that little seed of a beast comes out on stage or out in the lifestyle, and you get money and you can, and you get fame and success and you can do what you want, and you fall into the devil's grasp, and you're either strong enough to swim in the current or the undertow will pull you in, and that's it, man.
Yeah, and I know that's such a personal place because it's you can't sit there and go, okay, well, I'd paint everybody with the same sort of a brush that battles depression or battles, leaving the rock star life or being in it. Yeah. That's a very personal spot for you.
Oh, right? Yeah. Dealing with Bon's death when I was a kid, you're on top of the world, you think, and all of a sudden, one morning I get up, Bon Scott and this, and you're like, what? Oh. And things psychologically for me were so different after that.
And like you had mentioned, he was like a big brother to you in your head there.
And then I was so proud to go down. I go down and I get the Back in Black album, and I bring it home, and I pull the sleeve out because I want to know who the new singer is.
Yeah.
Well, the print was so fresh that all the ink had ran into everything, and I didn't know who the lead singer was for probably 3 or 4 months. It's almost like I had to go out and buy another record to find out who the lead singer was.
The old vinyl
But you
days.
drop the needle on and you hear the bell.
Yeah.
And then Brian comes in, and it was just like, wow, this guy really is different. And the sound in the band really is different.
Yeah.
But I thought, I just hit the volume and cranked it, and after that, there was no questions about Brian or anything after that.
Yeah, you never play AC/DC.
I just thought, Bond couldn't have had a better guy take his place.
Yeah. It's not dinner music. AC/DC needs to be loud.
Oh, yeah. It
Yeah.
doesn't come into focus till it's loud.
Yeah, and it's better on vinyl.
Yeah, oh, yeah, man, for sure. Yeah.
So what do you do then for you, Stephen, when you're doing you, when it's just you now? What is your life like for you now?
Well, right now I just dealt with family stuff, so I just got through that, and I'm just dealing with health problems and that, and I'm going to get that straightened out and get back to work doing something or whatever. But I do spend a lot of the time with an acoustic guitar and just writing, just play and jam and just keep jamming out. I've always have. You know, always sat in the side of a bed or a couch and always jammed out to myself once I got better at learning how to play guitar.
Sure. Now, do you listen to bands now? Like, who are some of your bands now that you think are, really good influence or really, inspiring?
I haven't really been paying much attention lately. I like a lot of the new stuff, and I'm like Imagine Dragons. I watch the Brit Music Awards. I love the Brit Music Awards.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you really see what's really going on,
Yeah.
The Brits, I love the Brits. They're just more open and honest about things, and that, to me, that's more real than the contrived stuff we see here in the Western world.
Yeah. Now, do you notice any trends in the world of live music? Like, do you notice that, concerts on big scale are always security, whole different world of, a live event. But in a bar or a pub, have you noticed that crowds are getting smaller and people just aren't supporting it like they used to?
Well, with us, I mean, what ended up happening after, I don't know, over 10 years of doing it, people, like a lot of the people I started out with, that were in the bar, so my friends and that coming out to watch us, I mean, they got older, they got married, they had kids, and then they weren't coming to the pub anymore, right? They weren't in the place anymore.
Yeah.
Now a new generation of people are coming in.
Sure.
So I went through generations of people, like the guy that couldn't come in 5 years before, now he's in the bar now, right? With all his buddies, right?
Yeah.
And some of the kids, they used to stand outside the door and listen to us. Now they're in the bar partying with us, right?
Well, the old tour was the Simcoe and the Brookdale and a few of the other bars.
Clifton,
Merriman, yeah.
Queens.
Yeah, the Queens, and some really interesting setups. Yeah, and some really interesting setups. But one of the things that I noticed when I used to go to the bars a long time ago to those concerts and to those live shows is you come home smelling like smoke, but the place was packed.
Oh yeah, when the smoking days, because I mean, you want to sit down and have a cigarette and a beer and watch some entertainment instead of standing out in the middle of the street on the yellow line, because that's where your limit is. They put you right out in the middle of the street to smoke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hope you get run over by a car. I don't know what that plan was. Yeah, there's one smoker gone, right?
Yeah. So when you're just kind of doing your thing, what would be your message then when you think about your life and where you've been? If you could just give us one last message of what you would love to project. You can't candy coat it all. There's a darker side to it all, even though there is the bright side to it, and it's a lot of fun and experiences, but there really is a dark side to it. But that's life. There's a dark side to everything in life, but the music business embraces it. So, or arts and theater, or whatever, Hollywood, so to speak, right? They almost glorify it.
I mean, look at Marilyn Monroe. I mean, there wasn't anything the public didn't know about the poor woman, right?
Wow.
Everybody knew everything about her. She had no private life at all. And that's what happens to these people when you become an icon or get famous, I guess. You got no privacy, man. Everybody knows when you went to the washroom, you know what I mean?
Well, part of that is the privacy and you sharing your life today, Stephen. And I really appreciate you taking the time.
No problem, man.
Thank you for being a guest on my show.
I'm glad you asked me,
Well, thank you for being a guest.
All right.
Cheers. Handshake.